Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, the gang is all here in varying ways. Matt and I in studio this week of Thanksgiving, and well, we actually got a lot to give thanks for. Thanks for a lot of news. Truth be told, I mean, man, you want to talk about things blowing up this week? Silly season suddenly ramped up this week. I don't know what happened. The temperatures got cooler and silly season got hotter. Some surprising moves, too. Speaking of moves, we are now knowing a little bit more about 2025 for both NASCAR on television and radio broadcasting. Formula One has suddenly changed course on an 11th team coming in. Not only will we give you the news, there's a bit of soapbox coming up, I can guarantee it. We're going to wrap up the 2024 NHRA season in a nice big bow just before we start opening up gifts for Christmas. Got another NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader, not totally out of the question. We got the big buffet of racing news before you sit down for turkey and all the trimmings. It'll get underway next on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. And 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Starting at a very early hour this particular week because, well, you know, college football.
Of course.
Yep. The flagship of the radio side of things here is, as we have said on numerous occasions, an affiliate of the University of Georgia Bulldogs. And they've got a weird kick, 11:45.
Well, that's what happens when you play the good old Minutemen of UMass.
Yeah, otherwise known as the Massachusetts School of Blind Girls. Wow.
I'm
sorry, folks. It's my home state. I was born there.
That's for the resident Massachusetts individuals.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that one.
Sorry, I was born there, but your football team at UMass sucks. Now, they just fired their coach this week, so maybe with a new coach they might get better, but it ain't going to happen this week against Georgia. They're going to get slaughtered.
At least you have Frank Martin coaching basketball.
Oh, there you go. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, weird kick. So, they were nice about it. The flagship station here said, instead of running the entire 4 hours of pregame, we'll cut into it by an hour, so you'll only have to worry about 3 hours of pregame. So, again, not only are we on the air early, we'll be leaving a little bit early, too. All right, let's get into what happened last week in the National Hot Rod Association. The NHRA had center stage all to itself amongst the series we cover anyway. They wrapped up their 2024 season out in Southern California. Top Fuel, the finals came down to a winner-take-all battle. It was between Antron Brown and Doug Kalita. Brown was quicker off the light, launched him to the win, 3.681 ET, 330.55 miles per hour. That's win number 6 for him this year in 2024 and win number 80 of his career. And he ain't stopping yet. I can guarantee you that. He's got a ways to go. To Top Fuel, well, as soon as Austin Prock qualified for the finals bracket, funny car battle was over when it came to who was going to be the championship winner. But when the funny car finalists came down to the burnout box, it was all John Force Racing. Prock made it to the finals anyway, even though he didn't have to. Took on his teammate, Fast Jack Beckman, who, of course, is sitting in for the injured John Force himself. Prock with the better reaction time, but he began to haze the tires, so Beckman got by. Beckman gets the win. Congratulations to him with that. A win that technically is credited to John Force. 3.812 ET, 327.35 miles per hour. Pro Stock Car final battle between Greg Anderson, Dallas Glenn. Glenn quicker off the light, but Anderson had the power. He got by as soon as they passed the Christmas tree. He goes on to get the win. Greg Anderson, 6.501 ET, winning time at a 211.30 mile per hour run. And then Pro Stock Motorcycle comes down to a battle between Matt Smith and Gage Herrera. For the longest time, whenever we saw Kyle Busch entered into a truck or Xfinity Series race, we would automatically pencil his name in.
Yep.
Gage Herrera is pretty much the same way. Anytime we see Gage Herrera in the finals, we pencil his name in as the winner and grab the Sharpie with the preparation of making it permanent. It's a good thing we didn't do that this time. We had to put the Sharpie away, grab the eraser. Matt Smith, despite losing the reaction time battle to Herrera, gets the win. 6.705 ET, 202.12 miles per hour. Herrera's losing effort was his quickest run of the entire event as well at just under 202 miles per hour. It's one of the fastest finals in the division this year. I mean, that is a battle for the ages. If you get the chance to go back and look at it, you ought to.
That was a tight one, no doubt.
Yeah,
Sure.
Really, really cool. Both of them at for motorcycles, well over 200 miles per hour.
Right.
Because I think the record right now is just shy of 204, I think. I can't remember what the record is. I saw it earlier this week, but so much has happened this week. Good night. Some of it good, some of it not so good. Just saying. But yeah, I saw it earlier this week, and I can't remember what the record is. But the record is, it's not much over 200 miles per hour.
205.04.
Okay. A little shy of it.
Matt Smith.
Well, there you go. So here's your final points. In Top Fuel, Antron Brown claims his 4th Top Fuel title of his career, best Doug Kalita by 62 points. Justin Ashley finishes 74 back. Remember, he came into this race in Southern California leading, so he falls back to 3rd. Sean Langdon, 87 back. 122 down, Brittany Forrest. Then filling out the top 10, Clay Milliken, Steve Torrance, Tony Schumacher, Tony Stewart, and Sean Reed. Austin Prock, as we noted, locked down the Pro Stock car title before the finals, but he made it to the finals anyway, gets the win, claims the title by 166 points over the combination of John Force and Jack Beckman. Ron Capps, 288 back, Matt Hagan, 298 back, and he won the title last year. Bob Tasca, the 3rd, finishes 382 points behind the winner in 5th. Rest of your top 10, Blake Alexander, Daniel Wilkerson, J.R. Todd, Chad Green, Cruz Pedregon. Pro Stock Car Finals, Greg Anderson's your champion, besting Dallas Glenn by a very slim 11 points and only 12 over Aaron Stanfield. That's close. Eric Enders finishes 144 back, 289 out, Jeg Coughlin. Rest of your top 10, Matt Hartford, Christian Quadra, Jerry Tucker, Troy Coughlin, and Eric Latino. And in Pro Stock Motorcycle, despite not winning the finals, Greg Herrera successfully defends his title. Bests Matt Smith by 88 points. 293 out Richard Gadsden, I should say. Then Angie Smith, 323 behind, and Hector Arana Jr. at 331 out in fifth. Filling out the top 10, Chase Van Zandt, John Hall, Gianna Evaristo, Stevie Johnson, and Chris Bostic. So what do we got left? Well, Formula One's the last man, or series, as we might want to say it, standing amongst those that we cover. And they continue their 2024 season, depending on what time zone you're in, if you're in the United States of America, because we do have people listening around the world, and we thank you for that. Depending on what time zone you're here in the United States, it'll be tonight. Like for us, Central Time, it's tonight, very late. The first of their final 3 races of the year, the Heineken Silver Las Vegas Grand Prix, comes up under the lights on the Las Vegas Strip. 17 turns, 3.85-mile-long course that includes, of course, the famed Las Vegas Strip. Yeah, said tonight. Just want to double-check that, you heard it correct. Yes, tonight. You might remember us talking about this last year, too, if you've been a long-time listener/watcher of ours. They wanted to do this at a time when this race could actually air during the day in Europe. Main market for Formula One. But they also had to find a time when they weren't going to bother the general shift changes at the vast majority of the Las Vegas Strip's major resorts and casinos. So here's your start time. ESPN has the coverage. Midnight Eastern, 11 p.m. Central Time. Staying up to watch?
It makes you feel like you're watching a race in Australia or Singapore somewhere.
Yeah, it does.
Which is ridiculous.
Staying up to watch?
Maybe. Don't know. But I do know some individuals that are from this area that I'm close with that are out there that I officially told them that I despise them because I found that they flew out early yesterday, going out there and then got out there late.
How did we not get the invite?
I said, appreciate the invite, bud.
Yeah. How did we not get the invite? Hello.
But
McFly.
I told him, I said, y'all have a blast, man. I said, you're checking a box that I'm waiting to check off.
Yeah, we want to check off that box. Last night, George Russell claimed the pole. Carlos Sainz will join him on the front row. If you're wondering where Max Verstappen is, he rolls off 5th. Not a great qualifying effort for him.
Yeah.
I'm not crying for him. Race, a little bit different from qualifying, let's face it. All right, let's take a little bit of an early break here, kind of get ourselves back on something of a quasi-regular schedule here because we usually take a break at the top of the hour anyway. When we come back, we're going to wrap up, as promised, the NHRA 2024 season in a nice big bow because, again, they ran in the finals last Sunday. Monday, they handed out all the awards. We'll talk about it next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson here. Producer John is producing to the best of his ability from a distance. We've been experiencing some internet problems, too. So the pictures that we were planning, he can't guarantee that they're going to be up there. So, you know, if they are, great. If they're not, sorry.
You'll get your visual.
Yeah. Let's see here. Closing notes off of the 2024 NHRA season. NHRA officials began working with the partners and the other groups like Geico, National Auto Body Council's Recycled Rides Program, Gerber Collision and Glass, and they found a lady, a very deserving lady. Her name is Danielle Reynolds, a U.S. Army veteran, single mom. They granted her a car, new to her.
Good stuff.
Single mom. And her autistic 8-year-old son, so she can get to work and to college. Really cool stuff. Reynolds was in the Army for 4 years before returning home to be with family and help her son, all while going to college. She had car problems with her previous ride. Things just continued to get worse until it turned out she and her son ended up being homeless. They were relying on friends and family for a place to stay, all while COVID and the aftermath meant that in-person therapy sessions for her son were not really available readily. The Recycled Rides program began back in 2007. They have since then donated over 3,300 cars to needy and deserving people with a reported value listed at approximately $47 million, all with the help of previously announced sponsors, along with the likes of Enterprise, David Wilson's Toyota of Riverside, California, PPG Paints, and more. This, again, and we talked about something similar to this last week when it came to giving a car out. Joe Gibbs Racing did this at Phoenix. This is what the racing community does. They go and they find these people and they go and help them. And I love it.
That they do.
2024 marking a first for Toyota. They have been racing in the NHRA competition now for 23 seasons. Isn't that long? Wow.
A lot.
Yeah. They claimed their first manufacturer's title. It's about time. The title was based upon now funny car competition being added into it with Top Fuel.
Better late than never.
Yeah. It really had been based only on funny car competition until this year. 2024 NHRA officials included Top Fuel entries into the points system to determine the winner. Due to their success in both funny car and Top Fuel, they bested fellow car makers like Chevrolet, Dodge, and Ford get their first title. How did they do it? They claimed 16 wins in 20 events this year, and at least one Toyota made the final round of each and every event in both Top Fuel and funny car until last weekend when both John Force entries made the funny car finals.
Chevrolet pulls a Lee Corso and says, not so fast.
But there was a Toyota in the Top Fuel final last weekend.
Antron Brown.
Also honored alongside Toyota, the Nascar at the NHRA Championship banquet, Jim Dunn. Very deserving of this. Just kind of surprised he wasn't honored with this long before now. The noted former driver turned team owner is given the NHRA Lifetime Achievement Award. This guy has been in drag racing for more than 70 years. Think about that. Dunn joins an impressive list of former honorees like Big Daddy Don Garlitz, Connie Kalita, Doug Schumacher, Forrest Lucas, and many others. Dunn, who's now 90, talked about getting his start in drag racing at the ripe old age of 15. He actually got his start, he said, by asking for car parts for his birthday in order to get a racer prepped for competition. That's a good way to start. The fact that they were able to give you the parts for your birthday is even better. He also found time, he said, to work for Los Angeles County as a fireman and said that despite that, quote, other career, quote, I fell in love with drag racing very young and I never wanted to do anything else. He added, quote, I'm 90 now and I will keep going as long as the good Lord lets me. Jim Dunn Racing isn't going anywhere and we'll be ready for 2025 and beyond. And I have no doubts that that will be exactly the case. And then another honoree, new dad, Tony Stewart. Smoke, of course, as we talked about on Cross Flags, qualified for the season finale last Saturday. Flew from Pomona, California to Phoenix to be by Leah Pruitt's side as they welcomed their son, who they named Dominic James, into the world. Then they headed back to Pomona to race. He got into the semifinals, but not before he crossed out his regular signature up above the window and put some duct tape on it and wrote Dad on it. Really, really cool stuff there. He then got honored with the 2024 NHRA Rookie of the Year. Okay. This one, according to NHRA officials, was one of the closest votes in its history. But the media, who makes the calculation on this, they chose Smoke over the other drivers and riders who made the finals and won. And here's the thing. No, Tony Stewart didn't claim a win. But it's not just about that. You think about this, and, you sit here, and especially watching on YouTube, you can tell what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a Stewart-Haas jacket that I ordered as the shop is closing. I've made no bones about this. I've made no secret about it. I've been a Tony Stewart fan since 1999, his rookie year in Cup. But if you look at the resume of all of the 8 finalists for the most, for this rookie of the year, and you just labeled them as A, B, C, D all the way down, or 1 through 8, let's just put it that way. Tony Stewart wouldn't be the resume you'd pick based upon the on-track performance. I mean, yes, he finished 9th in final points, and he did all that. I mean, look at what he did here. Yeah. First year in Top Fuel competition, 2 finals, 4 semifinals, got a berth in the countdown to the championship, ended up 9th in the standings after taking over for Leah Pruitt, right? There are drivers and riders who came out and grabbed a win in their first year. So why Tony Stewart? Truth be told, Tony Stewart brings more publicity to the NHRA than any of those other 7 combined.
True.
And that says a lot when you're battling up against NASCAR, which is the king of motorsports in the United States. We've said that many times. Indycar, which continues to make inroads. We talked about them recently having seen yet another uptick in their television viewership. Formula One, which continues to become certainly a rival for IndyCar. And all the other motorsports that are out there, having Tony Stewart out there only helps the NHRA and puts them in the headlines, much more than they had ever been really in the past. So I think that probably pushed him over the top as being the rookie of the year.
Yeah, if I had to say so, I would agree with that. That would be that one thing that got him over.
Yeah. So, but hey, congratulations. It was all of them really well-deserving class. Let's turn our attention to what's going on out in Las Vegas with Formula One. Now, we noted this last week in the Monaco Grand Prix. They've extended their deal. They're going to remain on the F1 calendar through 2031. Here's the caveat. They're moving the last weekend of May to the first weekend of June. This is something that does have officials with the Canadian Grand Prix applauding. Again, I'm not a big fan of this because it ruins the greatest day in motorsports. Get up in the morning, watch the Monaco Grand Prix, get the Indy 500 middle of the day, wrap up the day and into the evening on Memorial Day weekend, here in the United States anyway, with the Coca-Cola 600. We don't get that anymore.
Nope.
But Octane Racing Group, these guys are the promoters of the Canadian Grand Prix. They were involved in the process of the Monaco Grand Prix renewal as well, because they were seeking a change from F1 officials that is going to make things, well, truth be told, make a little bit more sense calendar-wise. Moving Monaco allows the schedulers to put all the European-based races together on the schedule, and despite 2 trips to North America, at least for them, it's not going to be 3, as it has been the last couple of years, with the Miami Grand Prix coming onto the schedule and being slated for the springtime, effectively. Since the Miami Grand Prix joined, the series has come to North America first for that. Then they would go to Europe for a race, maybe 2, sometimes 3, then back to North America for the Canadian Grand Prix, then back to Europe and Asia, then waiting for the later part of the year to come back to North America for the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA, the Mexican Grand Prix, and this year and last, the Las Vegas Grand Prix, right? For 2026, remember, the 2025 schedule is already set. 2026 and beyond, pending new contracts that extend the races, F1 will begin in Australia, go and do a little bit of a circuit of Asia, maybe a little Middle East in there, come to North America for Canada and Miami, then to Europe and Eurasia before coming back to the Western Hemisphere for COTA, Mexico, Brazil, Vegas, and then wrap up again in the Middle East. So they are truly getting this schedule to be geographically kind of potted together.
To make logistical sense.
Yeah. Again, somebody finally looked at a globe. Congratulations.
Which Ron White thanked you.
Yes. Yeah. And NASCAR still needs to learn it in some cases.
Yeah, let's not go there.
No, not. All right. Where else are we going here? How about Alpine? Alpine doing a throwback. We don't talk about throwbacks on Formula One all that much, but Alpine's going to do it for the remainder of the year, not for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Nope, they're just going to go all pink. Breast Cancer Awareness Month was October anyway. But they want to do it to thank their main sponsor, BWT, the Swiss water purification company, whose main color is indeed pink. It's very bright, and it will show up very, very well under the neon lights in Las Vegas. Good night. Sure. They chose to go with a strikingly different look from the regular blue livery. Welcome to the European way of talking about a paint scheme. Because they felt it would stand out better under the light show that is Vegas, but choosing to do it for the final 2 races? Are both of those under lights as well?
Abu Dhabi at Yas Marina is.
Okay. I can't remember if both of them are.
I think Qatar is too.
Okay. So it does make a lot of sense then. So they're going to do that. Sauber's also modifying their look, but it's going to be a little more subtle. They're going to add ghost flames effectively to their green coloring, while their drivers, Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu, will have race suits that echo the look of their race cars.
At the back of the pack.
Yeah. Flames aren't helping you with speed, but, hey, they're showing off for their last couple of races that they're going to be in those cars because neither driver is returning for 2025, as we have talked about here on the show. Yuki Tsunoda making his way to the United States this week for the race at Vegas had a little bit of trouble getting in. Seems he got stopped by border officials. They questioned him for a pretty good amount of time before they finally approved him and allowed him to head on to Sin City, despite having been in the U.S. twice already this year. Said he had no problems coming in for the races in Florida or Texas. Why does he think he was stopped and questioned? He replied, quote, "I was wearing my pajamas, so maybe I didn't look like an F1 driver."
That will do it.
Well, things are to be said about being comfortable while you're traveling, but I don't know. Maybe this is a case of being a little too comfortable?
Possibly.
I mean, I don't know the process that these guys got to go through. I don't imagine he flew in commercially, and I'm quite sure he certainly didn't walk across the border from Mexico into the United States.
There's not a East Japan. There's not a direct flight from Tokyo to Las Vegas. You would have to lay over in Seattle or LA.
I don't know. I don't know how he got here or where he came across or what, but one would think that he would have had documentation that would have helped, but I don't know. However,
I don't know either.
All right. We got time? Yeah. I'm going to give you the story. I might go soapbox next. This saga about whether or not we're going to expand
needs to either go or stop.
Yeah.
That's simple.
But everybody seems to be waffling on this, and it's just ticking me off. But the expansion towards an 11th team seems to have shifted into the positive area towards adding an 11th team, and maybe as soon as 2026. But it might not be in the way that we had been initially thinking. The initial approval from the FIA was for an Andretti Cadillac entry, a combined effort between Andretti Global and GM's Cadillac division. We've been talking about this now for how long? 2 years? At least, it seems like. But we also mentioned not that long ago that Michael Andretti recently exited from day-to-day operations within Andretti Global. So now all of a sudden, things are beginning to look better. Because, oh my God, we apparently don't like Michael Andretti, and therefore we didn't want him in our little club? Oh, I'm only getting started. The intention was to begin by using another company's power units until General Motors was able to work up their own FIA and Formula One approved power unit made by GM under the Cadillac brand.
Which would not have taken long.
No. That tied over power unit was to be from Renault. But, of course, Renault is shuttering that branch of the organization after this season, so that created a bit of a problem as well. Either way, General Motors, all they really got to do is look within their own building and over to their partners over at Chevrolet, and they've got the base for this. Because both of these systems, Formula One and IndyCar, use a V6 turbocharged and now hybridized unit. The only thing that changes is the displacement of the engine. Formula One's engine is technically a little bit smaller than what they use in IndyCar, which is what, 2.2 liters IndyCar? If I remember right, they were talking 2.4, but decided to keep it at 2.2 for cost-saving purposes.
I think so.
I think I have that right. If I've got this right, you go to Formula One's V6, it drops down to 1.6 liters. But either way.
Indycar is 2.2.
Okay. F1, if I remember right, is 1.6.
1.6.
There you go. It's not that difficult to be able to create the engine that fits that mold based upon the base that you have right there. You can do this. That's not hard. Racer.com now reports that a new F1 team, this time backed by General Motors mainly, not Andretti Global, still working towards the F1 entry, using a facility based in Silverstone, probably the one that Andretti Global started, in close proximity to where 7 of the 10 teams that are currently in the series are based. The company says they feel confident they could be ready to have racers on the starting grid for the 2026 season. As for the next step, there might be an announcement within the next couple of weeks. Okay. Here's the good part. All of the stuff all the groundwork's been laid. That road's paved.
Andretti's still going to get his stuff. It's just going to be in disguise.
Yeah. Instead of being Andretti Cadillac, it's going to be more Cadillac General Motors Andretti. And the main catalyst behind it is the fact that Michael Andretti and Mario, people who have been successful in racing, including Formula One, apparently ruffled some people's feathers the wrong way, so they didn't like him, so they didn't want him in their little club. But General Motors wants to be in, by God, we'll roll out the red carpet for you. Well, yeah, you should.
They're going to disguise. They're simply put, they're going to disguise it as a works team, just like Mercedes is.
Sure.
And Andretti's going to be the role of Toto Wolff. And Andretti and Dan Towers is going to be like the role of Toto Wolff, co-owner in the team.
Yeah.
But be the team principals and whatever.
Exactly.
There you go. It doesn't take a scientist to figure that out.
But you guys are ready to roll out the red carpet for General Motors. And again, you should have. You should have been ready to roll out the red carpet as soon as they were announced as a partner for Andretti Global. You should want one of the biggest car makers in the history of the planet to be part of your series if they decide that they want to be.
Yeah.
The fact that they were so against Andretti is what kills me, because the Andretti name within racing is every single bit as big as General Motors within the automobile world. And I'll be real honest with you. I think you and I both hit on this when we got to talking about this a while ago and started realizing the backlash that was coming. In that they're scared that Michael Andretti and Mario Andretti are suddenly going to come in and start taking names and kicking butt. They're not worried about a lack of performance out of this team because Michael Andretti's not going to settle for that.
It's motorsports. That's what's going to happen, boys and girls.
You're going to have up and down years. Andretti has had some down years here in the last couple of years in IndyCar, but you want to know something? They're on their way back up.
Yeah, they're climbing.
Don't worry.
This stuff.
I'm just getting started. I'm not done with this yet, because Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff went out and had to say something about it and just made it sound even stupider.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Championship Racing Network.
So, talking about the General Motors backed team that now apparently is being welcomed by those in F1 with open arms. All the complaining, and we've talked about it all year long, talked about it last year too, really, when this thing got started. And then earlier this year when the approval was made and then the backlash began with all the teams complaining about whether or not they were actually going to have to deal with the Andretti Global entry. And then Cadillac came in and they're like, well, yeah, we like the idea of GM, but we're not so sure about Andretti. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff, who has been vocal, by the way, against the Andretti Global part of it, seems to have changed his opinion. Wolff said on Thursday after he arrived in Vegas that a GM-only entry is more attractive than the Andretti plan. Get this, quote, so I'm putting my hope in there. No one from Andretti or Andretti Global or whatever the name will be has ever spoken to me a single sentence in presentation of what the benefit of having the team is, but they don't need to because the teams don't decide. It's the commercial rights holders with the FIA, Liberty Media and the FIA. We have no say. Really? That's funny.
Yeah,
because both the
buddy.
FIA and Liberty Media said that they were basing their decision upon a vote by the 10 existing teams.
And this is where you need the theme song of Like Sands Through the Hourglass. Those are the days of the F1 team owners.
Toto, you're an idiot. I'm just going to say it right now. And yeah, I'm saying it on YouTube, and I'm saying it on, the FM side, presuming the FM side is back up. They're having technical problems. But you know what? I would say, maybe not those exact words, but I would say something similar to Toto Wolff's face if I happened to be in Vegas and could run across him today. That's pretty freaking stupid. There's no difference between what GM was doing with Andretti or without him. And again, Matt's right. If you think that Andretti Global is just totally washing their hands of this situation, you'd be wrong.
Just like they want to be in Cup and have a presence in Cup. They've already been there for 2 years. You can't tell me they haven't.
And General Motors would be smart not to kick Andretti out the door. I mean, I get it. GM's got a pretty good history in the motorsports world. But when you can combine efforts with a name like Andretti, you do it. And they will. But Toto's sitting there saying, well, the fact that nobody from Andretti or Andretti Global has told me that what the benefit is. Dude, you're supposed to be a pretty intelligent dude. You should be able to figure out what the benefit of having Andretti Global and General Motors together coming into your series should be.
If you're a co-owner of the Mercedes F1 Works team in Formula One, you should have a brain cell that works. That's simple. Let's call it that.
And you can't tell me, I mean, I'm no insider when it comes to the racing world, but I can see what the benefit of having Andretti Global / Cadillac / GM, however you want to put it, in Formula One is.
Yep.
I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, but I'm certainly not in the position of a Toto Wolff, and I can tell you what the benefits are. And it's not just one, it's multiple ones.
True.
And Toto Wolff is going to say that. And then he's going to turn around and say, after all of the complaining, after all the BMCing, look it up, kids. After all the BMCing that he and so many other team principals did in Formula One about having Andretti in, now all of a sudden they're going to go, well, we don't really have any say in it. Horse pucky. Give me a break, guys. Now, I'll say this. My grandfather worked and retired from General Motors. I don't have any ties to GM other than that. But you know what? At this point in time, now I'm hoping they come in 2026. I hope they win half of the races that year. I hope they just kick everybody's ever-loving butt. I don't think it'll happen.
Real possibility that could happen.
But I would love to see it. And then at some point in time, just trot out Michael Andretti and Mario for a winning celebration. That'd be hilarious.
It would.
One more note out of F1, the F1 Academy 2025 slate of races released earlier this week. F1 Academy, in case you forgot, it's the all-female division there that they're putting on the level of about Formula 4. They're going to have 7 stops, but they're going to have 14 races in all. That's right, all 7 stops are going to be double headers. And they will all accompany F1 races at that same particular course. The all-female division, again, equivalent to about Formula 4, going to start in China. They're going to come to the U.S. twice, racing in Miami in the early part of the season, and the Formula 1 Academy's season finale will actually be here in the United States as well, run in conjunction with the Las Vegas Grand Prix. They're also going to be racing as an undercard event for the Canadian Grand Prix, so they'll be in North America racing 3 different times. Oddly, only 1 European-based race.
That is weird.
That's, by the way, the one at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. I mean, you look at it here, and producer John's got the picks up. Jeddah is where they're going to start in early March. Then they're going to wait until Miami in May, early May. Late June, they'll be in Barcelona, Spain. Okay, so somebody missed the Spanish race. I apologize for that. So 2 races in Europe. 2 out of 7 stops are in Europe. Singapore, Lusail, Yas Marina. I'm sorry. That's the 2024 calendar. That's not the 2025 one. That's my bad. I apologize. So, yeah, 2025, only 1 European-based race. That one's in the Netherlands. I don't make up the scheduling. I don't get it.
So somebody 18 hours ago on social media shared as a report that I don't know who this is.
Okay.
A place called Formula Racers. Oh, it says their headline title, F1 News and Analysis 24/7 updates based out of London. They're sharing, and whatever you do not fall over backwards and fall through the wall.
Okay.
General Motors are likely to use either Ferrari or Honda engines in 2026 when their own power unit will be ready by 2028. Huh?
Okay. So it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. They want to give themselves a little bit of extra time to make sure that they've got their power units set up and ready to go.
First response by someone, GM using Ferrari or Honda engines feels like borrowing a pen before your big test.
Huh?
I don't know what they mean by that. You're borrowing somebody's pen before they take their test.
So
Like you're using somebody else's pen to take your test.
So they're claiming that General Motors will be coming into this solely and wholly unprepared.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Which I doubt. Or hey, if they want to do this, here's a genius idea, very genius idea, and we've seen this done before. You want to come in? Let's pivot back to what a little company called Red Bull did a few years ago. They just outright bought the Honda blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go in and say, "Hey, Renault, we're going to buy your program, turnkey."
Yeah.
There you go.
There's your engine right there. Good to go.
Slap a Chevrolet valve cover on it and say, "Hey, look what we've got for our 2026."
That's what Red Bull's doing. They're pulling all the Honda insignias off of it and slapping a Ford look on it.
Bingo.
Same thing. It's how Ford's coming in. Is Ford borrowing not only the pen but the paper to take the test?
And the paper and the cheat sheet.
Yeah, apparently. Wow. All right. Cup Series news. There's a lot here. We're going to be sticking with the Cup Series for a while. Producer John, be ready. Start with Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing has long had a contract stipulation for all of their drivers that really, in effect, banned them from running extracurricular races. Dirt, asphalt, didn't matter. Effectively, if you wanted to go run anything outside of a Joe Gibbs Racing situation, you had to go to Joe and you had to say, "Can I do this?" And he would have to approve it. Okay. Now we've got Chase Briscoe coming in. Chase Briscoe's got a dirt racing background. Christopher Bell, who already is in the organization, also has that same background. And now that Chase and Christopher are in there and they've talked so much about it, suddenly Joe's own grandson, Ty, has expressed interest in doing some dirt track racing as well. So Joe Gibbs Racing has eliminated the stipulation, and the drivers can run dirt track races as long as it doesn't interfere with what they're doing for Joe Gibbs Racing as an organization as a whole.
Or sweet baby Jesus. That's all it took. Top Pop, can I go run some dirt races? Yeah, you and the guys go run.
Uh-huh.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean,
team founder Joe Gibbs talked to The Athletic this week, said, quote, "We sort of talk things over to come up with a process by which they can request to run certain races. If they get approval from everyone they need on our competition side, then they're free to run the race. That includes dirt, but also potentially other forms of racing." So how did the drivers react? Christopher Bell said he was surprised. Quote, "I was definitely caught off guard by the change in policy. Super shocked. But with Chase coming on board and Ty growing an interest in dirt racing, it's nice to have the majority of our team aligned with it now." Chase Briscoe said, quote, "I could tell it wasn't a hard no, but it wasn't something at the time that they were super thrilled about. Didn't feel like the door was shut completely. It was definitely a crack, but I didn't know that in my first year getting there that I was still going to be able to do the stuff that I wanted." Notice Ty has not said anything.
Yet.
Just noting it. Big week for Joe Gibbs Racing, wrapping up the week by promoting Chris Gabehart to the position of the organization's competition director, which means he'll no longer be the crew chief for Denny Hamlin on the 11 car. So that brings up the question of what now for the 11 car, right? Chris Gale slides over from the 54 to be crew chief on the 11 to call the shots for Hamlin. What about Ty Gibbs? Well, that's to be determined. Gabehart and Gale are longtime employees at Joe Gibbs Racing. Gale comes over with an impressive resume, 2 Cup Series wins, 37 Xfinity Series wins, and he helped his driver, Ty Gibbs, claim the 2022 Xfinity Series title. And Gale has been with Joe Gibbs Racing since 2003. Gabehart is a short-timer in comparison. He joined Joe Gibbs Racing in 2012. First as a race engineer, then moved into an Xfinity Series crew chief role 2016 through 2018, where he led drivers to 9 wins over those 3 years, and then in 2019 moved up to the 11 car in the Cup Series, where they claimed that year's Daytona 500. They've won 22 races together, including a second Daytona 500 in that time. Thing about it is Denny Hamlin said that he was kind of caught off guard by the news. Quote, "I was certainly shocked by it." And in his talks throughout it, if you kind of read between the lines as to what he said that he was told early this week, right about the time they lifted the dirt track restriction, to expect new team leadership for 2025, but he wasn't given specifics as to what quote-unquote leadership meant. And when the news came down, he mused that it might be a move that leads to his leaving the organization and not of his own making.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Denny, you've got the 11 car as long as you want it, dude. I mean, here's the thing. No, you haven't won a championship. But since 2019 with Gabehart, you've won 22 races and 2 Daytona 500s. That's a resume right there that Joe Gibbs is going to look at and go, why would I get rid of you? I mean, say what you want, think what you want about Denny Hamlin.
Was he thinking that from the simple part of how the scenario Kyle Busch went?
I don't know. I mean,
and Eminem's left.
A whole lot of things are going on. I mean, okay, you mentioned the sponsorship. Yeah, FedEx is leaving, which is big time news in and of itself.
Yeah.
Big name sponsor that came on board when they started the 11, before Denny Hamlin was actually the racer.
Yeah, because they actually started when Jason Leffler was in the car.
And that was what,
2004.
So 21 seasons, technically, that FedEx was, for all intents and purposes, the only sponsorship that rode on the side or on the hood of the 11 car. I get it. A couple of times they had an Interstate Batteries look or whatever. But for the vast majority of 36 points races and all of that stuff, you saw FedEx on the hood and on the sides of that car. They're leaving, and they decide that they're going to make the organization a little bit better because they needed a new competition director, and they looked inside the house and they said, you know what, Chris Gabehart's the best person for that job. None of this means that you're out of a job or soon to be out of that seat, Denny. They seem to be perfectly happy with the role that you're in. Again, you're winning races. Granted, you're not winning titles, but you're winning races, and you're able to seemingly flip the switch from driver at Joe Gibbs Racing, and then when you leave and you go over to Airspeed, the new building that you got with Michael Jordan, you can then flip on the owner switch. But you seem to be able to pretty easily separate that. Everybody from Joe Gibbs Racing has said that this year, within the past week.
He's probably had that thought from the simple fact of the scenario, how it went with Kyle. Kyle lost Eminem, and all of a sudden, poof, he's gone. because they can't get a sponsor. Well, Mavis Tire is basically in a way like Interstate Batteries was to the 18 car when Kyle was driving. Not many times on the car, but they're there just enough to fill that gap.
Yeah.
So Denny's not going to have a problem getting a sponsor.
No.
They're not going to have a problem getting a sponsor to put on that 11 car.
No.
Because worst case scenario, and I'm not going to say it's worst because it could be best worst.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Nike or a Jumpman on that car.
No, not at all.
Not in the least little bit.
See some
Michael
of the
Jordan's got the money to do
see
it.
some of the 2311 sponsors come over there and help out the 11 car. No, wouldn't surprise me a single solitary bit.
I mean, if Michael Jordan, in the first inaugural flight that it took was from his home base in Miami, when it landed at Alpha Sierra November, which in airline terms, that is Talladega Municipal Airport, that
Right.
$74 million Gulfstream G650 that we saw that had the red concrete paint job on it.
Oh, it was pretty.
Yeah, I think he can handle that. Denny, yeah, put the logo on the car. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think he'll be okay.
It'd be just fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, Denny. You're good. As long as you want to race and you'll be in behind the wheel of the 11 car. Not a problem. All right, when we come back, not only has Joe Gibbs Racing made some changes, RFK has made some things, well, official. You know, stuff that we knew. Worst kept secrets in NASCAR? Not really a secret, right? Talk about it next.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Turn on your microphone. Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson here. Producer John producing from a distance. We appreciate his input. He is on CRN Live on YouTube as well. So if you want to say hi to him, just hit the chat side of things. So on Cross Flags earlier this week, in one of the worst kept secrets in NASCAR and around the garages, that RFK Racing would be signing Ryan Preece. The bit was actually finally revealed and confirmed this week. It was actually revealed a couple of weeks ago by NASCAR executive Brad Moran, who let the news out on Sirius XM satellite radio. But the link was made even before that. Again, pairing Priest with RFK Racing in a number 60 Ford Mustang. We've been hearing about that for, since at least Talladega week? Maybe before that?
Yeah, when, I've seen he's been coined a new name, Brad Moron, because he let it slip, and Brad was not happy about it.
No. Ryan Preece is officially there. He has 187 Cup Series starts to his credit. No wins yet in his time with both JTG Dougherty Racing and the past 2 years with Stewart-Haas Racing. His time at JTG Dougherty, though, was pretty important when it comes to this situation because it was during that time there that he fostered the relationship with Kroger Supermarkets and Tad and Jody Gesector, who are the media people above Kroger Supermarkets. So he moves to RFK. They move to RFK. Not only will Kroger be a sponsor on the 60 car, but also for Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher in select races as well. 60 car, why the number 60? Well, it has meaning to RFK Racing. It is the number within the organization, regardless of what series, that has the most wins for Roush, really. I mean, let's face it, Keselowski's only been there a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it will be chartered, but they're not buying the charter. At least not yet.
I'm not overly surprised at this move considering their tight correlation.
Yeah. RFK Racing is leasing the charter from Rick Ware, not Stewart-Haas, Rick Ware. That means that after 2025, something's got to happen. NASCAR rules state that you can lease the charter out for a year, but the owner, Rick Ware Racing, must then either use the charter themselves or sell it for 2026. So we'll see what happens.
Pretty sure they'll get it back.
Probably. Longtime Team Penske crew chief Jeremy Bullins, he's joining RFK Racing as well. This was news, but not a big surprise as we look at it. He's going to take over calling the shots for Brad Keselowski, replacing Matt McCall. Bullins and Keselowski were paired up when they were both at Team Penske, where he was also the crew chief for Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, and then most recently with the affiliated team, the Wood Brothers, as crew chief for Harrison Burton. Among his 31 wins as the Cup Series crew chief, he was the guy that called the shots for Harrison Burton when Wood Brothers Racing won at Daytona, with Harrison Burton claiming Wood Brothers win number 100 of their team history. That same day, the same day that RFK made those moves official, yet another Stewart-Haas Racing driver has officially gotten his 2025 ride. This one not really much of a surprise either. We'd been hearing rumors about this for, about a month, maybe a little more?
Yeah.
2311 Racing, despite not having any charters, still expanding out to a third car. They're breaking out a number 35 Toyota for Riley Herbst, who is bringing the Monster Energy sponsorship with him. That's not a surprise either. Monster Energy's been with Riley Herbst for ever.
Start of his career.
There you go. So why the number 35? What significance does that have? We know that the other two numbers have significance. Specifically, 23 was Michael Jordan's famed number with the Chicago Bulls. But then he went off to play baseball with the Birmingham Barons in the mid-1990s, and when he did that, he wore the number 45. Those are the numbers, respectively, for Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick. They took the 3 and the 5 off of the end of those numbers to use a number that turns out Michael Jordan also used in his early days of playing baseball. He wore the number 35, so it's got a couple of different meanings to it. Not only is Riley Herbst coming along, so is Davin Restivo, who's his crew chief in the Xfinity Series at Stewart-Haas Racing. So they will be in a 35 car next year. And, yeah, I have to admit, not surprised by this move at all.
No, because Riley's family, basically the nature of the beast nowadays, Riley's family has a substantial amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's got the Monster Energy sponsorship.
Supposedly, they helped put money down with Denny to purchase said charter for said car. So that's how he got said seat.
Yeah.
But to the 2311 spotters next year, good luck.
And it's going to be very, very curious to see how this whole charter situation does float. It really does. Because here's the thing. If you want to know the situation right now, we know that Front Row Motorsports has an agreement to buy one SHR charter. 2311's got an agreement in hand to buy the other one. The money for that is reportedly sitting in escrow, while Gene Haas, technically now that Tony Stewart's washed his hands of the whole team, continues to hold on to the charters. But because he hasn't technically leased them or sold them by NASCAR rules yet, they're not worried about it. But when we get onto the track next year, specifically not really for the Busch Clash, but when we specifically talk about for Daytona 500, now all of a sudden that clock hits. Mm-hmm. And that year-long situation that we were just talking about when it came to Rick Ware leasing that charter, that clock starts for Haas. He's either got to use it, lease them out, or sell them. But I get the funny feeling this whole thing's going to be settled long before that.
Yeah, and then that, and then some.
Yeah.
It will be, but it's the look that they put on Riley's car that I've seen. I'm actually
looks almost exactly like Ty Gibbs.
I'm actually in favor for. I'm actually like it better because it's got the green skirts.
True.
To distinguish it.
Yeah, there's some differences, thankfully.
It's got the green skirts. To which color the roof number will be for when you're spotting at a super speedway. I'm waiting to see that one.
Yeah, we'll find out. Last night, NASCAR held their annual awards banquet. They feted their championship winners from the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, Cup Series, and they also handed out the most popular driver awards. And to nobody's surprise, Chase Elliott claimed the Cup Series most popular driver award winner, 7th consecutive year. He's only been in the series 9 years. He's won it 7 straight. The only reason he didn't win the first 2, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was still driving.
Yeah.
Elliott bested his Hendrick Motorsports teammate Kyle Larson. Larson finished 2nd in the voting. Ryan Blaney 3rd. Xfinity Series Most Popular Driver Award winner, predictably, Justin Allgaier. 3rd straight year for him. By the way, this marks a dozen straight years for a junior motorsports driver to be the Xfinity Series Most Popular Driver Award winner. And in the Truck Series, Craftsman Truck Series winner, Rajat Karuth claimed the honor. First time that he has claimed that honor, voted on by the fans and handed out by the company or the associated that Matt and I are a part of, the National Motorsports Press Association.
I'm not too surprised by that.
Not terribly.
Not surprised.
Could I have thought that maybe somebody might be a little bit more deserving? Sure. But again, fan vote, you're subject to stuff in the ballot box.
True.
We know that.
That is true.
That's the way it goes. Let's see. What else did we see on Cross Flags this week? We saw a sign sitting out front of JTG Dougherty Racing that has been changed before they made the announcement official. The picture came out reading Hyak, H-Y-A-K Motorsports. JTG Dougherty Racing was a fixture in the Cup Series for a whole lot of years, but things have been changing this off-season. I mentioned it just a moment ago. Jody Geschechter, long represented Kroger supermarket chain. They've left the operation. They're taking the Kroger sponsorship with them. They're going to RFK, right? The new ownership group does still include former NBA player Brad Dougherty, but that's really about it. Everything else seems to kind of change. Dougherty grew up in North Carolina, says he's been a race fan as long as he was interested in basketball and maybe longer. Your new main owner is a gentleman by the name of Gordon Smith. Gordon Smith is the owner of Hyak Maritime. This is a shipbuilding company for all intents and purposes based out of Astoria, Oregon. We talked about that. We looked this up earlier this week. They make most notably what? Tugboats?
Tugboats for ocean barges.
Okay. To kind of help them get to their particular docks, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. They'll be around for a while, and they're making pretty good money. Let's face it. So, along with Dougherty and Gordon Smith, the ownership group includes guys by the name of Ernie Cope and Mark Hughes. Hyak, what does it mean? H-Y-A-K. Well, it means fast, according to Smith, in the Chinook language, a trade language that is well known and used up in the Pacific Northwest part of the United States. At this time, little changes other than the name with the race team are going. They're planning on sticking with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., sticking with the Chevrolet, sticking with the number 47 as well.
Astoria, Oregon, that is on the extreme northern point of the state of Oregon. It is on the Washington state line.
Yeah.
On the Pacific Ocean.
Find Portland, go all the way to the coast, and boom, you have Astoria. Oh, gosh, where are we now? Okay, time-wise, we're looking pretty good. Front Row Motorsports, they've made a driver announcement. 2 more yet to go. What we do know is this. Todd Gilliland is set to take over the organization's flagship ride. I'm calling the 34 Ford Mustang the flagship ride. They're going to keep longtime FRM sponsor Love's Travel Stops as his sponsor. He'll take over that car and that sponsorship from Michael McDowell, who is now gone. He's at Spire. Gilliland has been driving the team's number 38, called to move to the 34 Humbling, which is another reason for me to call it the flagship ride. Or am I off base?
No, because I think it's more humbling to him because in the early days of Front Row, his dad drove this exact car.
Sure, I get it.
So I think
number, sponsor, everything. David Gilliland had.
David drove the 38 with the Love sponsorship, but the Love sponsorship went to the 34 when David moved away from it.
There you
to
go.
when Landon Castle took it over.
All right, there you go.
So, but the driving the same team, same sponsor, I think that's where the humbling comes in.
Sure, absolutely. This also means, by the way, the Front Row Motorsports has 2 more announcements to make. As we know, this is what we do know. They have the stated intention to expand to 3 cars for 2025, just like 2311. We do know that they signed away Noah Gragson from Stewart-Haas Racing. They have not announced what car number he will drive. They also have not announced who the 3rd driver for the organization might be or what car they will drive. So they've got a 38. We know that. That's the car that Todd Gilliland just came out of. We know that they have in the past, when they put a 3rd car out there, used a number 36. Nobody's claimed either number, so one would presume those would be the 2 numbers that they're going to continue with.
I feel like Noah's going to go to the 38, and Drew Blickensderfer's going to go with him.
And that wouldn't surprise me either.
And I would probably say Zane Smith is going to come back to Front Row and take the 36.
And that would be a nice get for them. But in looking at this, you think about this. The 2024 drivers that were at Stewart-Haas Racing, all 6 of them, the 4 in the Cup Series, the 2 in the Xfinity Series, all 6 of them next year have landed all with Cup Series rides.
True. It's true.
And all of those crew chiefs, think about them. Think about the talent that Stewart-Haas Racing has just released onto the world.
Yeah. It's
I get it. I'm a fan. I'm fanboying a little bit. I get it. But at the same time, even if I weren't, looking at it from a media perspective, the 6 drivers that you had in 2024 all were let as free. Well, say 1. 5 of the 6 were let go as free agents. Cole Custer moves up within the organization back to the Cup Series, which that's not a shock. His dad's one of the executives of Haas factory team.
Yep.
Okay. But again, judging on what Cole has done the last 2 years, he deserves at least another chance.
I can't disagree with that.
And then you look, we just talked about Riley Earpst, just talked about Noah Gragson, Josh Berry's in Cup. He's taken over the 21 Wood Brothers ride. And let's face it, Chase Briscoe, he's doing real good. He's taking over the 19 at Joe Gibbs Racing. You can't complain about that at all. All of those guys landed very, very nicely.
But it's funny to me that not a single one of them landed in a Chevrolet car.
No.
Not a
One
single
Toyota
one.
and everybody else Ford. That's interesting to know. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. 2311.
2 Toyota.
Duh. Still. Not bad at all. Not a bad legacy
Chevrolet
for
did
what
snatch
was.
some of the crew chiefs, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 2 of them, I think, at least.
Yep.
Not a bad legacy for that particular group. Speaking of legacy, Legacy MC. Travis Mack, recently leaving Trackhouse Racing, has landed at Legacy MC. He'll become the new crew chief for John Hunter Nemechek on the 42 car, taking over that car from Ben Bayshore, who moves from the 42 to the 43, calling the shots for Eric Jones. Max got over 150 starts as a crew chief in the Cup Series, actually helped Daniel Suarez claim his first win back in 2022 at Sonoma.
Jimmy is putting the pieces together over there. Click the pieces together in the puzzle.
Yep.
I'm going to say it like that.
Yeah. You've got the puzzle pieces there. You just ain't got them in the proper order yet.
They're there.
They're there.
Do it.
Just got to get them in the proper order. You know, speaking of those Stewart-Haas Racing crew chiefs, I think the last one finally found his spot.
Yep.
We'll talk about that next because we talked about landing at Chevrolet. We do know that the one, Rodney Childers, he's at Spire. What about that other one that landed at Chevrolet? Who is it? Where is he going? We'll tell you next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, good morning, everybody. And for those of you that are just now joining us, apologize to you. But yeah, we had to go on early this particular week. We've been on the air for an hour and 15 minutes, which I know sounds very odd. But our flagship home radio station, yeah, they're a Georgia affiliate. And pregame starts at 8:45. So we had to start early. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you. As we were teasing before the break, Austin Dillon getting himself a new crew chief. One of those Stewart Haas racing guys, you know, Richard Boswell used to call the shots for Chase Briscoe. He's moving over to Richard Childress, and he will be the new shot caller for Austin Dillon on the 3 car. Something's got to change with that car. Good gosh, they were horrible this year. Notice Matt's being very quiet over there. Boswell.
I give it. I had to gather my thoughts. I give it 25 races.
Okay.
Justin Alexander will be back on the box because he will BMC his way about Boswell because Pop, he's not getting it done for me. Something like that or whatever. And then Justin Alexander will be back because Justin Alexander always has to come back and go, all right, let's clean this mess up, kids.
Yeah, or try to.
Oh, yeah.
Boswell said of the move, quote, "My dad used to race with Dale Earnhardt, so he was always a huge fan. And the number 3 was the car that we all grew up cheering for in my household. So this truly feels like a full circle moment." All right. Spotlight's on you, man. Good luck. MBM Motorsports isn't going away, but it's a part-time team, selective in the races they choose to attempt to qualify for. For example, fielded a car in 13 races for 2024, split the driving duty amongst 6 drivers. Their best finish came at the Chicago Street Course race. Josh Bilicki behind the wheel. They finished 28th. They have announced they're planning on attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500. Team owner Carl Long said, quote, "We are definitely going to do the Daytona 500. The car that we had at Martinsville, we've already torn it down, putting it back together, trying to maximize what we need to do for Daytona. Like in 2024, they'll field Ford Mustangs. They'll get their engines from Roush Yates, but they don't have a driver announced. They don't have a sponsor announced for the race yet. But again, they've got until February to figure that out. A lot more open teams this year, basically because of this whole thing. And again, I'm not saying that it's going to remain this way. But let's face it, we're all going to be watching 2311 and Front Row Motorsports if they're still walking into Daytona as open teams. I don't have a problem saying that they're all going to make it, but at the same time, we're all going to be watching them. MBM Motorsports, they're going to get washed away in the backwash of this.
If there are 42 cars to show up,
2 are going to go home regardless.
If there are 42 cars to show up, you're going to have... I will not be the least little bit shocked to see all 3 2311 cars and all 3 front row cars lined up nose to tail working together.
No,
they'll stay in a safe spot.
Sure,
and that's not fine. That's not the problem. That's not going to be the issue. But what it's going to be is, and I can promise you, it's going to be the fight with the final spot between the 50 car, the 44 car, and the 66 car.
You're not going to put Beard in there, 62?
Beard will get in on speed.
Okay.
They have the last few years.
I'm just asking.
Beard will get in on speed because that'll be a fully prepared RCR car.
Sure.
And RCR cars, whether the drivers just flat out are pathetic or not, let's word it that way, they come out of the gates blazing at super speedways. There's no denying it.
Yeah. And as you've noted, Front Row Motorsports, if we know anything about Front Row Motorsports, they know how to set up cars for super speedways.
Front Row will be in the race on speed.
They know how to set up cars for Daytona and Talladega, and they do it well. Heck, they've even really kind of got Atlanta down because we saw Michael McDowell put that car in the pole at the spring race in Atlanta.
The 34 car, I'm calling my shot now. Todd Gilliland will take his first career pole at Daytona.
Oh.
In the 500. I'm saying it now because the 34 car has been nearly dang near bulletproof on super speedways last year.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. So that's not going to be the problem. The problem is going to be coming between the 50, 44, and 66 to where probably it's going to be the 50 car gets knocked out because if the 50 car can be 13 miles per hour slower at Phoenix, what makes me think they're going to find the speed to be able to be in even the 170 range at Daytona?
Yeah. They got a lot to figure out over there at Team Amerivet. Then you get NY Racing. That's the 44 car. Yeah. I mean, I understand where you're going. I do. A little bit after the Daytona 500, NASCAR is going to head to Texas, and they're going to race at Circuit of the Americas. And when they go there, the road course that they're going to run on is going to look a little bit different to both the drivers and the viewers of the race. Lap time is going to be quicker because of it, too. Ever since we've been there, Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, IndyCar for 1 year, NASCAR, and other series have always been seemingly on the 20-turn, 3.4-mile, one-long road course, right? NASCAR's shifting. That's the traditional course. How about there's a national course there?
There are actually 3 different layouts.
Yeah, there's several different layouts that you could do, but one of them is called the National Course. And when NASCAR, with both the Cup and the Xfinity Series, get there in March of next year, they're going to use that course. They state that it consists also of 20 turns, but over a much shorter 2.3-mile long layout. I'm hoping that John has those pictures up there, or at least one of them.
They are.
Okay. I'm on a delay on my computer, so I apologize.
Slowly but surely coming up now. The main one now is the actual Grand Prix layout.
Okay. and then you'll get the national course here in just a moment. What the national does is it cuts off about a mile of track from the S's at turn 9 before it rejoins the traditional course at the end of the long backstretch. This will lengthen the race in terms of number of laps. Right now it's 68 laps in the Cup Series, should go to up somewhere around 100, they say. And according to simulations run on this by some NASCAR drivers, should cut the time per lap by about a minute or so. And
it's going to cut it way down.
Yeah. They've been running, what,
in the 220,
230 range, somewhere in there?
No, in the 210,
210? I couldn't remember right offhand.
In my keen, deep analysis that I made this week, ran some test laps on the national course layout at COTA, then turn right around and run the Grand Prix layout.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to shave down from in the 213s to about probably the 120s.
Okay.
120s or so. The race is going to go definitely quicker because, iRacing lets me do that. But
sure,
it's going to be definitely different because when you come out of those S's in 4, 5, and 6, and you have to make a hard left in 7.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
It's going to be.
And again, this is one of those situations where we're calling turns different things here in the grand scheme of things that NASCAR, you might not have necessarily considered it a turn. And I know that John's listening. I think that there was one that actually showed both of them overlaid. I think I might have sent it to him. It showed both of them overlaid, and it showed where the national course is and exactly what is being cut off. And it's kind of fascinating to see it. And it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world that they could do. Just to be real honest.
It's not going to be.
Going the shorter course, not the worst thing. Yeah, there it is. I can see it in the reflection in the window. That's probably your best, way to figure out exactly what the difference is between what F1 has run and what NASCAR is going to run.
And that end of the track that they cut, the end of the track that they cut off is the least fan populated area.
That's true. Yeah.
So they're putting everything more eccentric down to where the stadium section is and the main front stretch area is,
right,
to where it's more visible.
Yeah. And the reason they cut it off there as opposed to the other crossover there, I mean, you look at that, that's really set up to take that far end that's in the gray area if you're looking on CRN Live and make that a loop. Because trying to make that turn, I don't care whether you're in Formula One or NASCAR, that'd be a pain.
Yep.
All right, so we'll see what happens. For the first time since the Truck Series joined the Nationwide Traveling Series ranks, one manufacturer has swept the titles in all 3 series 2 years in a row, and that belongs to Chevrolet. Chevrolet claimed their 43rd manufacturer's title in the Cup Series this year. Their 26th Bill France Performance Cup is the top automaker in the Xfinity Series, and now have their 12th manufacturer's title out of the Truck Series. This marks their 4th straight win for the Cup Series, 8th straight in Xfinity competition, and 2nd consecutive Truck Series title win for the manufacturer as well. Now, we said just a couple of minutes ago that the postseason award ceremony for NASCAR happened last night. If you want to see it, you'll get to, but not live, unless you had tickets to it. To see it on TV, got to wait until tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. CW Sports will air it on a delayed basis. It'll start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Up against football, which everybody will be watching. Just saying. When the Cup Series television broadcast moved from Fox to Amazon Prime and TNT Sports, going to have some familiar faces and voices calling and commenting on the action. Calling the race, Adam Alexander. Adam Alexander joined the booth by Hall of Fame former driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. and former NASCAR crew chief Steve Letarte. The only one that we knew previously was Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was announced back in May that he was leaving NBC and joining Amazon Prime and TNT. The trio will helm all 10 races, split 5 each between Amazon Prime and TNT. It's going to run from the Coca-Cola 600 to Memorial Day weekend and wrap up with the first ever Mexico City Cup Series weekend in mid-June. Letarte, by the way, not leaving NBC. He will stay with NBC Sports as they take over.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at anything you're saying. I just read the bottom of something right there and how you clearly pronounced something at the bottom of this right here. How you clearly, adequately worded it. I was reading ahead.
Thank you. It's a talent of mine. I appreciate it. TV is not the only change that we're seeing, by the way. There are changes on radio as well.
With something I'll touch on the TV
Go
side
ahead,
right
do
here.
the TV side, sure.
The TV side, now reading ahead right here with the radio stuff. Radio side nailed it. They nailed their replacements for the ones that were retiring and stepping away. Kudos to both networks.
Okay.
But I'm questioning this one move right here on the TV side.
We talked about this a little bit during Cross Flags.
I would have went a different route because here's why. Because I'm going to go with my way of saying this if I'm a Southern Baptist minister here. God love Jamie Little.
Sure.
She's great on pit road. She's a great pit road reporter. But in the booth, I don't know who she is. She is not very good in the booth. I'm sorry. I thought they would have learned that when they put her in the booth for ARCA, but truck races, I don't know.
We both have found reason to question her over the course of this year. There's no doubt. You and I both did. I'll admit to that. You're right. Sorry, I had to adjust something behind the things.
You're good.
So those of you that are looking at an extreme close-up.
A couple messages going on. But it's almost like she's more interested in joking around and talking about crazy jokes and trying to make humor with Michael Waltrip and Phil Parsons when she needs to be watching the race. Because honestly, Adam Alexander has carried the truck broadcast on his back when he's been in the booth.
Okay.
I would have went to the route. I would have went and pulled somebody the likes of Vince Welch or Alan Bestwick.
So in other words, you think Fox Sports should have tried harder to keep Adam Alexander
to keep Adam
and
Alexander.
put him as the main announcer.
Because unfortunately, I'm afraid truck broadcasts are dead.
And
Unfortunately,
we did talk about the scheduling there.
Yeah, and because Fox Sports
they're putting them all on Fox Sports 1 except for three races. One was Michigan. Trying to remember.
Michigan, Homestead, and Lime Rock.
Yeah, which Lime Rock I understand. First time for high-end NASCAR traveling series to go to Lime Rock. Sure, I've got no problem with you putting it on there.
But
Michigan and the other two, and I'm not so certain that those were the best choices.
For everybody that has seen the photo on social media, no, I'm not trying. The photo that has circulated before from the former vice presidential debate with Waltz and Vance. I'm not trying to do my best J.D. Vance impersonation with looking, but going.
Hey, yeah.
Are we sure we wanted to do this right here, this way?
That's what
I would have
announced.
went a different route because he carried those broadcasts on his back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We'll see. Time will tell.
I hope I'm wrong.
For the radio changes that Matt was alluding to, we'll start over at PRN. Of course, the first of the two who announced his retirement was PRN's Doug Rice. Now, Rice was stepping down as the lead announcer. He's still going to be involved with the Performance Racing Network. Heck, he helped found the thing, okay? So he's still going to be there. He's just not going to be doing all the traveling that he was. So they needed a new lead announcer. They have pulled from his pit road reporter's duties Brad Gilley to step up to the booth to be alongside Mark Garrow. Rice says that Gilley was the obvious choice. Agreed.
I fully agree.
Gilley has been with PRN since 2006, and really went wherever the network wanted him to go. Most of the time spent on pit road covering pit stops, talking to crew chiefs about the strategies as the laps wound down on any given race. Before that, he worked for Texas Motor Speedway for 16 years in several roles. He will also remain with SiriusXM Satellite Radio as the host of The Late Shift that you can hear Monday
Which
through
now,
Friday.
therefore, means you won't hear his voice on MRN because he did do a few races for MRN this year.
Yep. As for that MRN that you just noted, here's the thing. We don't know who's going to take over pit road duties from Brad Gilley. So we'll wait on that. MRN needed to replace Jeff Striegel. Striegel announced later in the year that he was stepping aside after this year. He called his final race at Phoenix. He announced it as they were signing off that broadcast after the Cup Series championship race. Joining Alex Hayden, who remains in the booth, Turn 3 announcer Mike Bagley.
Good call.
Bagley steps aside. So who takes the place of Bagley in Turn 3? That'll be NASCAR's former resident PA announcer, Tim Catalfamo.
Ladies and gentlemen of the fan side of fulfilling the stands, the national nightmare that we have faced for 3 years is now over. It is over.
Tim, if you happen to be watching, we're happy for you. Congratulations, but
I can promise he ain't watching.
no. But we've said this before, and we'll say it again. Some tracks need to bring in a PA announcer. Not every one of them. Now, if you want to replace that particular person, by all means, I'm available.
Our phone works.
And I'll let you know this. I've already put in for it. So we'll see if they insist upon having a national PA announcer going to all the NASCAR-owned tracks. I'll be more than happy to do it. I've done a third of your tracks already. So let's go.
So, just go ahead and prepare you people. We go back, if we take it back to basics and put back in place what was never broken that was tried to be fixed.
You know, something NASCAR likes to do.
You can guarantee that the sound clip of the classic movie from the Blues Brothers, we're putting the band back together.
Amen to that. When we come back, we'll talk about Craftsman Truck Series. Got some open wheel stuff that we still got to get to from both IndyCar and Formula E. And it'll be the last segment of the show, too. Because remember, we got to be off the air so that we can turn things over to college football here, which will start at 8:45 on the flagship station. So stick around. We'll be right back. Craftsman Truck Series on deck.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing. Fuel only, go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
All right, welcome back in. Let's see how much we can get done, shall we? Little bit surprised that he's all the way back down into the Truck Series, but then again, when you look at the team he's joining, probably not that much of a surprise.
I said this Wednesday. Cross flags.
You did.
Out of all 3 series and the moves that have been made so far, this could arguably be the softest land out of all 3 top series.
Yeah. Daniel Hemrick, we knew, was out of his Cup Series ride. He was unceremoniously booted.
For Todd Dillon.
Yeah. Good luck with that. He's back into the Craftsman Truck Series, signing on with no less than McAnally Hilgeman Racing to drive their number 19 Chevrolet Silverado with continued sponsorship from Napa. Napa's been a partner with McAnally Hilgeman on this truck, or in some way, shape, or form, literally for decades, not just years, decades.
Hence why I said what I said.
Yeah. Hemrick is now 33, comes back to full-time Truck Series racing, marking his first time full-time in this series since 2016. His last 2 years in the Cup Series, 5 years prior to that in the Xfinity Series. He was the 2021 Xfinity Series title winner. Had a last lap, last corner pass at Phoenix Raceway to do it, too. His crew chief and sponsors, other than Napa, will be announced at a later date, according to the team. But heck, this is a truck that was really, it seemed like every single race this past year in competition for the win, if not in victory lane.
His sponsorship from that he's got too from Poppy Bank, his longtime sponsor that's followed him, they're going with him too.
Not a bad deal.
So,
not a bad deal at all. Over at Tricon Garage, yet another truck has been settled for 2025. Tanner Gray has confirmed he'll be back in the number 15 Toyota Tundra. This marks his 6th year in that series. 2024, his best so far. 5 top 10 finishes, finished a career-high 13th in the final standings. Got a pole position at Charlotte, led the field in 4 races throughout the season. Tricon is promising the remainder of the driver lineup and their crew chiefs will be announced soon. I haven't looked at one... I can't tell you how long.
On our OBS system, I looked up, and the next photo that's going up, I was like, I don't. That's what I had to say. Good Lord.
Sports Illustrated is famous for several things, but probably most notably their swimsuit issue, right?
Yeah.
Even after over 50 years, it continues to break new ground. They've finally introduced their first NASCAR driver. Tony Breidinger finished 4th in the ARCA Menard Series standings, ran a part-time schedule in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage. Becomes the very first NASCAR driver to appear in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, which should hit stands, I guess, soon. 25-year-old Californian did the picture shoot in Florida, said, quote, "It's nothing short of an honor to be featured on the 2025 Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. I'm grateful that I get to live out multiple dreams of mine."
With how she's done and her sponsor, one of her sponsors that she has, one of them, that she does work for Victoria's Secret and how she models for them, I'm not overly shocked that she's in this issue.
It's not a surprise in the grand scheme of things, but again, first time in NASCAR. I mean, we've had Danica Patrick, who's, regardless of what you think about her driving ability, she's not exactly the ugliest thing walking around on the planet. So the fact that she wasn't the first one might be a little bit surprising. Might.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But with how Tony's been modeling and she's been in these Victoria's Secret fashion shows recently, I'm not overly surprised.
No, not really. Turning our attention to IndyCar, one more 2025 seat has been filled. And we noted on the show last week there were 5 seats remaining for availability full-time in IndyCar next year. But one of those finally got filled. Juncos Hollinger Racing has announced.
This may be a head-scratcher.
They've signed Stingray Robb to drive for them next year. Now, he's got the greatest name going in IndyCar, but otherwise, he's not really got a whole lot to show. Rob has been full-time in the series 2 years, 2023 with Dale Coyne. Then he moved to A.J. Foyt Racing for 2024. He finished 23rd and 20th in the final points those 2 seasons, respectively. But this is kind of a reunion or a homecoming, if you will, for Rob and the organization. He raced for Juncos Hollinger Racing back in 2020 when he claimed that year's USF Pro 2000 title. Other than his being signed to race an IndyCar for 2025, the team didn't announce what car number he'll be in, who his sponsors might be. They just said, yep, he'll be in one of our 2 cars. So we're still waiting on that. We're still waiting on both Dale Coynes, and we still have one Rahal Letterman Lanigan seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, your NASCAR version of Fire Ride program.
Yeah.
How?
I mean, USF Pro 2000 is a nice thing to have on your resume, but once you're in IndyCar, and dude, that's 4 seasons ago.
It's beyond me of how Juncos Hollinger, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Juncos Hollinger, how they could not find a way to keep Romain Grosjean, who elevated your team to a new level in performance because he was consistent.
Well, and at this point in time, I will say this. At this point in time, Romain's not signed. So he's still out there. He could come back.
True, but it's
the fact that you haven't already locked him down is stupid.
But all fingers are pointing that he's going to run Lamborghini in World Endurance Challenge Series.
Yeah.
All right. You couldn't keep him, but we're pulling IndyCar's version of Ring Around the Rosie, can't keep a seat.
We'll see.
I'm trying not to laugh at something I see John Myers doing. But go ahead.
I missed it.
You'll see it. Now, you'll see it.
Oh, I will?
You'll see it.
I can't wait.
You'll see it.
Arrow McLaren Racing looking for a brand new team principal. Gavin Ward announced he's left the team after 2 seasons with him. Combined statement had this quote from the team that he is leaving is effective immediately, and it was a, quote, mutual and strategic decision as the team positions itself for growth and performance in the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series season. Ward said in his part of the statement, quote, I leave Arrow McLaren after 2 years developing a people-first culture set to topple a 20-year domination of IndyCar's championship teams. We've made major strides during my tenure. Our 2024 IndyCar season delivered the team's most ever race wins, and we came within 2 turns of a victory in the Indianapolis 500. Arrow McLaren is positioned for further success with a stable driver lineup, significant off-season recruitment, and thoughtful organizational changes. I wish my former colleagues well and hope that our work together leads to more wins on and off the track. I plan to spend some time at home with my wonderful wife and 2 daughters while I evaluate what's next in my career. What that tells me is Ward actually got fired.
Sounds like it.
Sorry. You didn't have a plan to move to another team. They canned you for reasons I'm not really sure of. Doesn't matter. Either way, you got fired.
You cannot tell me Tony Kanaan has not been the one running that team this year.
Well,
all the shots that have been called.
Now he's directly calling the shots.
Yeah.
They didn't name a direct replacement for Ward, but Arrow McLaren did say that Tony Kanaan, who has worked with the organization a few years now, has been named the deputy team principal this week after Ward's departure. No actual team principal is going to be named at this time. Kanaan McLaren CEO Zach Brown said that several people will split and share the duties of the position, but in the end, all final decisions will be made by Brown himself, who also has to call some shots for Formula One. So that ought to be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
This might be one of the more puzzling moves.
It's a head scratcher, no doubt.
WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is undergoing a management change. Okay, fine. Happens all the time, right?
Yep.
Friends of Laguna Seca announced Friday they've terminated the management agreement with the company A&D Narigi Consulting effective the last day of this year, 2024, December 31st. In other words. Ross Merrill, who's the president of Friends of Laguna Seca, said this, quote, since 2020, A&D Narigi LLC, they've done great service to Monterey County and the Laguna Seca recreation area, including WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, returning the operations of the facility to profitability and in the many improvements made to the park during the past few years, including the new racing surface and the new Mission Foods Bridge. Friends of Laguna Seca will now take over the day-to-day management within the facility and insist that all the employees that were brought in under Narigi will remain, adding that the Friends of Laguna Seca felt that the next best step of the facility would be for them to execute the long-term plans for the track. As for what that plan is, Merrill said that the nonprofit group is developing a long-term master plan now. Oh, I'm sorry, you've already terminated the contract with the people who have made all the improvements possible and made it profitable, and you didn't have a long-term plan in place.
Oops.
What? Good luck. Good luck.
Oops.
We noted last week Roger Penske's Penske Entertainment has brought the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. They're going to be the promoters of the race from here on into the future, at least the foreseeable future. We asked the question at this time last week when we talked about this. What about the possibility of another IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader like we saw for a couple of years in Indianapolis? NASCAR wants to be in Southern California.
And I'm pretty sure I think I said Roger Penske did not buy this for a specific, non-specific reason.
Right. This week, the captain himself talked about it. Penske, talking to reporters as he's made his way to Charlotte to help celebrate the team's third Cup Series title in a row, said, quote, "We might see, as we did with NASCAR, doubleheaders. I haven't talked about this. I'm not announcing anything, but I think about it. Indy, we ran a doubleheader there with IndyCar and NASCAR. We go to these temporary circuits. We got 2 racing series that could come in, help pay for those assets that build and build out. It'll be very important. The fan base, think about it. You're going to be cross-pollinating people. Might be NASCAR fans that see Indy or IndyCar fans that see NASCAR or something else. We see that obviously with IMSA running with us at Long Beach and places like that. NASCAR is continuing to claim that Southern California is very important to them, but the track that they own languishes in construction hell.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, 2025 will mark the first season that NASCAR is actually not going to race in Southern California since the mid-1990s. 2026 is a possibility because neither IndyCar nor NASCAR have a schedule set yet. We'll find out about that in the summertime. But as for the likelihood of NASCAR joining IndyCar at Long Beach, let's face it, we just don't know right now. Should it happen? Yeah. Will it happen?
Who knows?
But I've asked this question too.
Here's your double header right here. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I mean it. Gosh, this screams for it, doesn't it?
If you can if you can run IndyCar and IMSA on the same weekend, I'm pretty doggone sure you can run Cup only and IndyCar same weekend.
So you wouldn't do like a NASCAR IMSA doubleheader Saturday? I'm just asking. Because I don't think IndyCar is going to move off a Sunday.
I would dare say if you set it on the schedule in the correct place. Hear me out.
Okay.
If you put it on the schedule in the correct place in the year, and you put the right people in line to formulate the plan, to execute said plan, I would dare say you could successfully run both in the same day.
I would think.
You're Southern California. It's not going to get dark until much later. Even though it's going to stink having a Pacific Coast race 2 in one time. I mean,
sure.
Heck, they run Thermal Club
Do it.
The crack of daylight, it seems like.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean,
come on, make it work. Let's find out.
Call me, Roger.
Yeah, there you go. To Formula E, they're set to begin their 11th racing season coming up next month in Mexico City, set to debut something that the series has been, let's face it, pretty quiet about up until now. The Gen 3 racer has been upgraded. It now has 4-wheel drive. That's a pretty significant change to the car, and they kept it real quiet. Veteran series racer Lucas DeGrassi told Racer.com it is something he's been pestering series officials now for since about the 5th season. DeGrassi added, quote, "When we moved from Gen 1 to Gen 2, I said, let's do 4-wheel drive because 4-wheel drive is the future of electric cars. You need a motor in the front to regen, so 4-wheel drive just makes sense." He also talked about the other added benefits in that it's better, quote unquote. The car is more stable at high speed. Acceleration is about a second faster from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, so it's a massive difference. Well, I would imagine it probably is.
Huge.
How the heck did they keep this quiet?
Don't know.
I gotta say, congratulations to the fine folks at Formula E. Whoever's keeping secrets over there, well done. Well done. Because nobody knew up until then. The McLaren Formula E operation making a last-minute change before the upcoming 11th season. Ian James has been named the director of motorsport for McLaren Automotive. He adds that title onto his role of the Formula E team's racing director. It's a role he will continue in, so he's just adding a whole lot of stuff to an already fairly full business card. James replaces Mick McDonough, who's leaving the company after having been there the past 4 years. This new role adds the duties of overseeing all of McLaren's customer GT racing programs. He'll now report directly to McLaren CEO Michael Leiters. James comes to McLaren from Mercedes, where he was their Formula E team principal. But even before that, when he was working with Mercedes, he was a manufacturing engineer on their SLR McLaren road car project from 2001 to 2005. So this guy knows what the heck he's talking about.
Yep.
And now McLaren is like putting him into every single possible situation they could possibly do over at McLaren other than what Zach Brown's doing. Okay, knock yourself out. As Matt said, no cross flags this week. We will have, and I'm going to do it along with our erstwhile producer, Molly, a quick message thanking everybody for their support and noting that we will come back as soon as we can. But yeah, just because scheduling situations don't allow for it, unfortunately, there won't be a crossed flags this coming week in the form that we are used to. Let's put it that way.
It'll be fun next week for sure.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it because we know next weekend is Thanksgiving. We've talked about the schedule. We know that here everything's fine as far as the scheduling is concerned. Right. But, you know, with Matt's surgery and that situation, we'll have to see whether or not we actually do a show or whether we take off for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. It's not Black Friday, thankfully. And I'm not going anywhere near a shopping center on Black Friday. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm not really sure I want to be out a whole lot that particular weekend because, wow, the people are nuts, man.
No kidding.
Either way, y'all have a very, very happy Thanksgiving to all your families. Thank you very much for your wishes to us and our families. We do appreciate it very much. We appreciate all your support. We appreciate you telling all of your friends. Heck, just in the past couple of months, we went from having just over 90 subscribers now to 121. We can't say thank you enough for that.
Absolutely. That's
amongst the things that we're thankful for. Again, your support is immeasurable. We cannot state that enough. And it doesn't matter whether you're on the flagship radio side, CRN Live on YouTube, whatever. Crossed Flags, this main show, all of the support that everybody has been showing. We're just absolutely blessed. We can't say thank you enough.
For sure.
Whatever you're doing, if you're welcoming people, hope you have the patience to handle it. If you're traveling, hope you have the patience to handle it. Be safe. Be careful. We'll talk to you again here real soon. Have a very happy Thanksgiving on behalf of myself, Matt Nicholson, producer John, Molly, Carrie Adams, who help us out when it comes to Cross Flags. We thank you so much. Matt's got surgery. Be thinking about him. What is it, Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
That is Wednesday. So be thinking about him because he's having it on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Means I get to be lazy, baby.
Yep. So we hope to talk to you next Saturday. Can't guarantee it yet. By the time we get to our Cross Flags Thanksgiving message, you'll know, we'll know. Y'all have a fantastic, again, happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you again real soon, right here with the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.